You are not a failure. You may not believe that right now, but I hope that by the end of this video, I can convince you that your past failures do not define you. In fact, you're a person with many key strengths and a lot to offer the world. So first, what is failure? Or what does it mean to feel like a failure? Almost everyone knows what it's like to fail at something, like a test or an interview, or like a boss in Elden Ring. That's right there, right when you walk outside and you're on it for 4 hours before somebody finally tells you that's for later in the game. But this is just failing a task, not necessarily feeling like a failure more generally. When we talk about feeling like a failure, it seems like we're referring to something much deeper, a characteristic or a trait, something about ourselves. It's not, I failed at something, it's, I am a failure. So while the explanations of imposter syndrome, poor progress at school or work, or cognitive distortions are helpful and true in some sense, they don't get to the core of what it is to be a failure, which is our identity. Think about it this way. Let's say some friends invite you out bowling, and you go naturally because you love the 1960s aesthetic and you're a really big fan of tossing a 10-pound weight down a waxed alley. So you're out bowling with them, hanging out and having fun, and by the end of the night, you have the lowest score in the group. Now, let's assume on the one hand, you've never bowled before, a bowling virgin, if you will. You probably don't care that your score was so low since you're not a bowler. You had fun with friends, and because your identity doesn't center around bowling, your low score doesn't bother you. On the other hand, let's assume that you're a professional bowler, a bowling slut. You probably do care about your score. Here you are, professional bowler, and you're getting absolutely wrecked by your friends. Yikes. In this case, the odds of you feeling like a failure are much higher since a key component of your identity is as an expert at bowling. Now, even in this example, one night of a poor showing amongst friends is unlikely to lead to a persistent feeling of failure. But what if this kind of thing happens often? And what if it happens in several domains of your life? It's at this point that we start to feel like a failure more generally. In other words, we persistently feel like failures when our identities, how we view ourselves, do not match up with the realities in the world. If a central component of our identity is our work, we're going to feel like failures if we don't do well at our job. If our identity is shaped around our intelligence, we might feel like a failure if we do badly in a course. And if our identity is centered around traits like integrity, humor, kindness, or creativity, then we're going to feel like failures if those traits aren't noticed or appreciated by others. Okay, so what's the solution here? Do we just lower our standards? Do we pretend like certain traits aren't core parts of our identity? Do we give up the professional bowling career because our friends are worried about the financial viability of living off of tournament winnings? Well, no, now that I say that out loud, now that I hear it, now that I hear how it sounds to my ears, I feel like the last one, cut that one out for sure. But if persistently feeling like a failure is related to how we perceive our ambitions, our goals, and our actions as they relate to our identity, then the solution is to broaden our identity. It's not bad for work to be a core component of our identity. But if work is most of our identity, we're setting ourselves up for a feeling of failure if we lose our job. It's not bad for intelligence to be a core component of our identity, but we're setting ourselves up for a feeling of failure if someone thinks we're stupid or if we fail a test or a course. Instead of defining ourselves by one or two core traits, we can de-emphasize those traits that tend to lead towards feelings of failure and emphasize those traits that lead towards feelings of self-worth, positivity, and self-efficacy. The next time you find yourself in a rut feeling like a failure, think about whether you might be overly focused on a certain part of your identity. Ask a trusted friend or a family member for some examples of things you excel at, or maybe some characteristics that they love about you, and see if you've neglected to acknowledge and identify with these traits as well. So tell me down below in the comments, what have you done in the past to stop feeling like a failure? You can tell a story, you can share some advice, or you can just write a comment for the algorithm. It all helps. If you liked the video, please click like and subscribe, and let me know if there are any other topics you'd like covered. Until next time.